And joining us on the line to discuss the success of Sanral's latest bond auction, which was held yesterday, is their Chief Financial Officer, Inge Mulder. Inge, good morning and thank you again for making the time to join us. Let's first get a sense of yesterday's bond auction performance. How does that tally against the expectations that you had?
Morning, yes. We were looking to raise 500 million rand yesterday. That is our standard size for our auctions, which we do on the first Wednesday of every month. So it was a standard day on a standard auction looking for 500 million. We got bids for a total of 465 million, which is significantly less than what we've had in the past 3 auctions. Some of those prices were slightly wider than mark to market, so we only allocated 275 million and stuck to the mark to market on the day.
What would you say accounts for this rather dim performance relative to previous auctions?
I think there's a couple of things, but mainly, investors are very sensitive to instability or uncertainty. So mainly that would be our thinking about what happened. We did try and speak to most of the investors before the auction to relay any fears that the recent pronouncements would have any impact on Sanral. However, yes, it did create uncertainty, especially in the users themselves. So yes, that would create more problems for us than the fact that the investors didn't in fact buy the bonds.
Have you had an opportunity to engage David Makrua on some of those comments and in particular the impact this is likely to have on Sanral?
Look, Sanral is an agency of the National Department of Transport, so I think it's not for Sanral to speak to the Premier. It would be within the Minister's realm to do that. So that is, we take our cue from her. So if she indicates that we need to do something different, that's what we'll do.
Inge, Ian Cruikshanks here. Just a question, you seem to gloss over it. That is, you're very much depending, as you said, on your regular auctions. Now, isn't this an indication that it's going to become more and more difficult? Not only that, more expensive. Those unallocated bids that you got may become the norm, and we may find that there are fewer at the levels at which you anticipated, which you would call commercial rates, but at the moment, and maybe for a little bit longer than that, we're going to find a higher cost of borrowing, which is then going to attract the interests of ratings agencies and have an impact on government's ratings itself.
Well, from Sanral's point of view, that's the thing that we're trying to avoid the most. So it is, in terms of our mandate, we have to communicate to our investors and tell them what the facts are and what's happening here. And the uncertainty that has been created, we need to speak to them and tell them what is happening and whether it's true or not true. How would it impact on Sanral? So in our minds, it's about communication to the right people, giving them all the information, and that has we've been managing to keep our costs down, especially our borrowing costs, to keep it within the limits. So yes, it is challenging, and we can't ignore the fact, but the way we've done it in the past is to make the lines of communication very open.
Inge, final question to you. There has been talks of a possible fuel levy replacing the e-tolls. Is that a possibility?
Well, from Sanral's point of view, as I said before, we implement government's mandate. The current mandate in terms of the National Development Plan is the user pay principle. So until the mandate changes, Sanral does what the mandate says. So in our minds, it hasn't changed, and therefore we will not be changing it.
Inge, there's also been debate about whether this is a step on a step in the side of the ANC to try and gain back some of the support that it lost in Gauteng in the municipal elections. Where does Sanral fit in being used almost as a pawn in what seems to be clear electioneering on the part of the ANC?
Look, I can't tell you whether it's clear electioneering or not, but from the Sanral point of view, it does put us in a very difficult situation, and the auction of yesterday has clearly indicated that it has an impact, and that investors and the people using our roads see us as no different to government. So there is a very close link between Sanral and government and the pronouncements made by government.
Inge, thank you for making the time to join us. That's a big thank you to Inge Mulder. She's the Chief Financial Officer of Sanral.